South Korea is one of the wealthiest countries on earth, ranked among the top 15 economies by the World Bank. And yet, for most of the past 70 years, it has sent more children abroad for adoption than almost any other nation in history. The total count, documented by the Korean government and adoption agencies, exceeds 200,000 children since the 1950s. That number belongs to a country that today hosts global tech summits and exports cultural influence worldwide. So the question is not simply historical, it is this: how does a modern, prosperous democracy continue a practice that most of the world associates with poverty and crisis? And why is stopping it so difficult? Between 1953 and 2022, the Korean government recorded approximately 204,000 intercountry adoptions, according to data compiled by the Korean government's Central Adoption Resource Agency. At the peak in 1985, nearly 9,000 children left the country in a single year. The United States received the largest share, roughly 110,000 children over the full period, according to U.S. State Department records. France, Sweden, Denmark, and Australia absorbed much of the remainder. Even as recently as 2010, Korea still ranked among the top 5 countries of origin for international adoptees entering the United States, according to State Department data. For context, Korea's total intercountry adoption count rivals or exceeds that of China, Russia, and Guatemala, countries that faced far more acute poverty. In South Korea's GDP per capita today stands above $33,000, according to the World Bank. The system began an emergency. After the Korean War ended in 1953, the peninsula was shattered. Orphanages overflowed with children displaced by conflict, many of them mixed-race children born to Korean mothers and American soldiers. A group facing severe social stigma in a society that placed enormous weight on ethnic and family lineage. American Christian organizations, most prominently Holt International Children's Services, founded in 1955, stepped in to place children with Western families. What began as wartime relief became institutionalized infrastructure. Adoption agencies formed legal relationships with the Korean government, generating fees and creating what researchers have described as a self-sustaining industry. As Korea industrialized rapidly through the 1960s and 70s, the causes shifted, but the pipeline did not close. Unmarried mothers who faced intense social stigma under Confucian family norms relinquished children at high rates. The state, focused on economic growth and population control, had limited interest in building a domestic welfare system. Sending children abroad was cheaper, quieter, and socially convenient. For many adoptees, the costs were profound and lasting. A landmark survey by the Danish-Korean organization, Korean Adoptees in Denmark, found significantly elevated rates of depression, identity confusion, and social isolation among Korean-born adoptees. Suicide rates among Korean adoptees in Scandinavia have been documented as higher than both the general adoptee population and the native-born population, in research published in peer-reviewed Swedish medical journals. Many adoptees who returned to Korea to search for birth families discovered that records had been falsified or deliberately destroyed by agencies protecting the system. The Korean government formally acknowledged institutional wrongdoing in 2023, when the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, established by the National Assembly, confirmed cases of forged documents, coerced relinquishments, and children sent abroad without genuine parental consent. For birth mothers, the stigma rarely faded. Many were told their children were unadoptable domestically or were pressured to sign documents they did not fully understand. The wound, it turned out, ran in both directions. Korea's adoption story is not simply Korean. It is a case study in what happens when economic growth outpaces social reform. When a nation modernizes its infrastructure, but not its attitudes toward unmarried mothers, mixed-race children, and family difference. The same tension appears in different forms in Japan's treatment of children outside the Kaseki family register, in China's one-child legacy, and in the adoption histories of several Eastern European states. What makes the Korean case singular is scale, duration, and the fact that it continued long after the economic justification disappeared. The hard truth documented by Korea's own Truth and Reconciliation Commission is that systemic pressure, not individual tragedy, was the engine. And the broader lesson may be this: Prosperity does not automatically dismantle the social hierarchies that produce vulnerable children. That requires deliberate policy, cultural change, and the willingness to hold institutions accountable. Korea is slowly and painfully doing that work. The question for other societies is whether they wait as long.